Brothers and sisters, welcome to this special evening sponsored by the Harlem Anti-War Coalition, and that is the Harlem Coalition Against War at Home and Abroad. But what we're here tonight, and what everyone should hear, is the continuous attack of the U.S. government on the Black liberation movement. And we aren't talking about Mickey Mouse socialists. We are talking about Black liberation struggle leaders, one who gives us a class analysis. And we're going to lay it on the line. My co-host, first of all, my name is, again, Nellie Bailey, and I am the founder of the Harlem Coalition Against War at Home and Abroad. And I am joined by my co-host this evening, the one and only Councilman Charles Barron. Charles, are you around? We have a full evening for you, but for those of you who are able to join us on live stream, that is on YouTube and Chairman Omali's Facebook page. But before we begin, many, many thanks, gratitude, and appreciation to the People's Forum, specifically Claudia de la Cruz and David Chong. Thank you, David. Again, we have a full evening, but it is about what is before us, an attack against all of us, and that is an attack against the Uhuru movement, and specifically Chairman Omali Yeshitela. They're coming after him today, and you better believe they will come after you tomorrow, because Black liberation that is working on the ground with the people cannot be tolerated. And we do not need the Russian government to tell us about the atrocities against Black people starting in 1619 and throughout this period. They have not let up. And if we are going to be about anything, we have to certainly drop this notion of support. No, not the notion, but rather the strategy of supporting the Democratic Party. And if you want to support electoral politics, you do it the way the Uhuru movement did it, and in Florida. That's how you do it. And you don't tout the line of the Democratic Party. That is the deathbed of Black struggle and Black liberation. And for the Biden administration to rehabilitate or attempt to do so, the FBI is absurd beyond description. Now, we all remember the FBI, don't we? Remember Malcolm X? Remember Dr. Martin Luther King? Remember the Black Panther Party? Remember any Black liberation movement you can think of? Now, what was that, brother? No, it wasn't that long ago, and we know it wasn't that long ago because they are here today attacking the Uhuru movement. That's why they are here today attacking the Uhuru movement, because of the work that has been done on the ground with poor and working class communities in St. Louis and in Florida, and the influence of this organization, not only throughout the country, but indeed throughout the world, in Africa and in the global South. Oh, yes, the issue is before us, and we must stand tall. To borrow a slogan from one of our comrades, no compromise, no retreat. no compromise, no retreat. Yeah, right. You render. Right. It's, I mean, when you really think about it, no compromise, no surrender is no compromise, no retreat. Retreat is almost a watered down version of that. Let's really, really think about it. No compromise, no surrender. Because if we surrender, that is the death nail for all of us. But anyway, it's not about me. It is about moving forward with an evening dedicated and devoted solely to the Uhuru movement and the African People's Socialist Party. Before we start, and we're going to bring on Charles, we want to have a moment of silence, a presente to fallen comrades, including, and of course, this is not everyone, the late Saladin Mohammed. Presente. And our own beloved New York Frank Vergara. Presente. Also here in New York, Tim Skimmerhorn, a labor leader. Tim Skimmerhorn, presente. And we have to, of course, go to our beloved cultural kingpin, presente to Miles Davis. Oh, yeah. And we all love and remember Miles Davis. Charles, do you want to come in? Yeah.
Uhuru, you know, this is a sign. This is the greatest time to be alive.
Yes.
Because this attack is a sign of their collapse.
Yes.
This attack is a clear signal that capitalism, colonial capitalism all over the world, imperialism is dying. But when they are dying, they're dangerous. It's like being in the cage with a dying, wounded beast. So these attacks are a compliment to our movement, not that we want y'all to be attacked, but it is a compliment to our movement in that they are dying. So when they come for the Uhuru movement in the morning, they're coming for you in the afternoon and me at night. So we are here to say on behalf of Operation Power, our organization, we are with the Uhuru movement 1,000%. And I also present myself as Mr. Inez Barron, my wife. So she brings her solidarity to it. But you know, anytime you have a revolutionary organization and a revolutionary who brings a whole new concept, African internationalism, to the scene, who breaks down the colonial mode of capitalism, of production, who says boldly that we will determine who our friends are and who our enemies are.
Yeah.
And no one else will determine that for us. So I'm gonna move aside because I came here, my chairman, we are committed. We are turning electoral politics as a tactic into a revolutionary strategic move to get more of us involved in that arena so that we can challenge state power. We cannot concede any arena of struggle to our oppressors. And so that's why we engage in electoral politics, and we say hands off the Uhuru movement, straight ahead, forward ever, backward never.
Yes. Let me just add one other thing. The U.S. government has lost its world hegemony. They have lost it. The world's over 60% of the world's population is moving to seek an alternative to the dollar. They're lying about inflation. The U.S. government hegemony is over. It is over. Now, before we bring on the chairman, we have a sister here who is part of the Uhuru movement who will speak to us first, and that is Penny Hess. This sister, this sister is a powerful speaker, and she is one of the conspirators in this co-indictees in this charge against the African liberation movement that we don't think we need to learn lessons from Russia about. Penny Hess, please.
Uhuru, I just am honored to be here tonight, and I want to salute Nellie Bailey, who is so courageous, who has been out there struggling for so long, and you are definitely, I admire you, and it is an honor to be here in this event. And I also would like to salute to Councilman Charles Barron, and I was with Chairman Omali Yeshitela and others from the Uhuru movement today, and we visited, I think, would you call it the People's Republic of East New York? It was, wow, that was so powerful to see. Thank you so much, and wow, I mean, I'm just totally blown away, and I want to explain to everybody that I am the chair of the African People's Solidarity Committee. That is the organization of white people that was formed by Chairman Omali Yeshitela in 1976 as part of the strategy to end the isolation of the African liberation movement and to create a second front behind enemy lines as part of the strategy to win the total liberation of Africa and African people everywhere. And that this organization is of white people. Our job is to go into the white community, to go not as friends, not even as allies, not as a favor, not as charity, but again, as part of the strategy to be able to go organize in the white community as Black power and white face, to be African internationalists, and to win other white people to truly understand our greatest interest is in following and being aligned under the leadership of the African working class, the vanguard party that is very serious about completing the African revolution and winning back all of the resources that belong to African people everywhere. So our work is in reparations, fighting for reparations, and winning white people to the struggle of the African People's Socialist Party for power that is working for political and economic power in their own hands. And I can only salute with just great humility, and it is a great honor to salute Chairman Omali Yeshitela, the fighter, the fierce, the relentless, as he is known, who has fought every single day of his life since he formed the African People's Socialist Party in 1972. But even before that, he was a member of the Junta of Militant Organizations, and before that, a member of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and has never, ever, ever let down the struggle, and has fought to forward and solve the problems of the African Revolution so that this time around, African people are gonna win and are winning. And I want to, I just want to say that it's a great, profound honor to work under the leadership of Chairman Omali Yeshitela and to work under the leadership of Deputy Chair Onizine Yeshitela, who coordinates the more than 60 economic political institutions of the African People's Socialist Party working for political power in the hands of the African working class. And on July 29th, as most people know, at 5 a.m. Central Time, 6 a.m. on the East Coast, the chairman heard, and deputy chair were up. They were talking about their day, as the chairman will talk to you about, the program that was going to be happening at the Uhuru House in St. Louis to create and train African working class women to be doulas, That program went on, by the way, despite these attacks. And they were planning their day. They were talking about it, but they heard this loudspeaker outside. And the chairman was forced to come down the stairs of his house to the porch. And as he came down, he saw scores of people in military dress holding assault rifles that were trained, that had the red laser sightings trained on his chest, letting him know that they had the power of life or death over him. And as we know what this government does to African people who struggle for their freedom and liberation, it was very clear that this was an attempt to murder, to assassinate Chairman Omali Yeshitela. They put flashbang grenades into his house. They broke windows. They sent drones up. They took all of his their phones, their computers, and other devices, and everything that they had. They also, at the very same moment, invaded the Uhuru House. So I think we're going to see a video about that in just a minute. We'll see a little bit of video of what happened. And they invaded the Uhuru House, which had been the international headquarters of the African People's Socialist Party for 30 years, and had archives and photographs and tapes all the way back to reel tapes from back in the day. Took cases and cases and cases of these archives out. This is history of the African Revolution that they stole, that they took. They also went into the Uhuru Solidarity Movement. The office of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, which is on the south side of St. Louis, in the white community. This is a building owned by the African People's Socialist Party that we in the Solidarity Movement organized out of there on 2654 Gravois in St. Louis. And we have a tremendous support from the white community there, and a banner on that building that says unity through reparations. They went in there, they shot flashbang grenades all throughout, tore down, ripped down doors, took down everything just to destroy, just to intimidate, and went into 4 people's houses, chairman's, Jesse Neville's, Comrade Jesse, who's also an unindicted co-conspirator, as well as Director Akile Anai, who is the leader of the party's agitprop department and the editor of the Burning Spear newspaper in St. Petersburg, Florida, and myself and Comrade Kitty Riley. And so these raids went on for hours, but within an hour of the end, the chairman had a press conference in front of his house that has now been seen by 700,000 people around the world, with tremendous outpouring of support that has come to the chairman and in solidarity with the right of African people to struggle to be free. And we're clear that the reason that the chairman was attacked, and that this attack was primarily for him and for the party, was because the party has struggled for the liberation of Africa and African people everywhere. It wasn't a local struggle. It was a struggle against the root of this system, the parasitic colonial capitalist system, to take it down once and for all, and to liberate Africa, and to continue that struggle that has been going on for hundreds of years from African people. And I just want to say that I am profoundly honored to be, along with Chairman Omali Yeshitela, named a unindicted co-conspirator. That is a badge of honor, to stand on the side of the African Revolution, to be named by the most vicious government that has ever existed on the planet as a co-conspirator against it, in solidarity with the African Revolution. Thank you, Chairman, thank you. This is a great honor. And I also want to say very clearly that this indictment, which there are no charges against the Uhuru movement, but this indictment is against somebody in Russia. That, it's just absurd, and it's absolutely obscene that this government would say that anyone could tell the African Revolution or African people what the conditions are that they face in terms of genocide and reparations and elections and anything else that they do. So I want to be clear about that. And I just want to also say very quickly that the chairman took on at the end of the 1960s and the beginning of the 1970s, solving the problems of the African Revolution, seeing the COINTELPRO, the kind of counterinsurgency attack that we're seeing right now. The chairman was determined to solve these problems and to bring forward the understanding. And one of the things that's very important for white people to understand, this question of colonialism. The chairman has said, we're not fighting racism. Racism is the ideas in white people's heads, and ideas have a material basis, and that material basis is colonialism, the system in which a foreign and alien state power just dominates and occupies another people for profit for the colonizers. And as quietly as it's kept, that is what exists inside the United States. In St. Louis, where I live, there's something that's called the Delmar Avenue Divide, because on one side of that are gated mansions that white people live, and about 1 block north of that is incredible poverty of the African community. Well, Delmar Avenue Divide is another word for colonialism that exists inside the borders of the United States. And the chairman has really developed this amazing concept called the colonial mode of production. And we really have to understand this, because if we don't, we can never come to the right conclusions. And we can never understand why, as white people, our class struggle is the African working class-led struggle. Because as the chairman said, everything that is produced in this system comes on the foundation of the enslavement of African people, the theft of African human beings turned into commodities and forced to labor for free for hundreds of years and still now. And this is what created wealth for white people, and that this is on land stolen from the indigenous people, and that there is nothing. Okay, yes, I'm going to wrap it up, but I just want to say that this question of the colonial mode of production is really, really critical for white people to understand, that we must be under the leadership of the foundation of the struggle against imperialism and colonialism. So I'm very proud to be a member of the African People's Solidarity Committee. I want to salute Chairman Omali Yeshitela. I want to call on all white people here to join the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, the Hands Off Uhuru Defense, the Defense Committee, and to be part of the future for the planet Earth in genuine solidarity with the liberation of African people and all oppressed and colonized peoples on this planet. Unity through reparations, Uhuru. Yes.
We all know what we came here tonight for, and I'm honored to introduce the chairman of the African People's Socialist Party, Omali Yeshitela. And this is the 21st century. You cannot move and have a lot of action without an ideology. Ideology determines the correct action. We have a revolutionary who presented an ideology, African internationalism, that can really guide our action. There are not a whole lot of revolutionaries left in this country, at least organizations that withstood the onslaught of the 1960s, the COINTEL program, which is what's happening now, similar kinds of activities. But we have one for us that sustained himself from SNCC to jump to all of the organizations of the 60s, 50 years with the African People's Socialist Party, and then I was honored to meet him while we engaged in this electoral arena. I was seeking for a revolutionary answer to this, someone who has sustained and kept themselves together over all of these years. Many are dead, many are incarcerated, and many have sold out because the pressure is heavy. So I want you all to honor today, stand to your feet, and let's welcome Omali Yeshitela, the chairman of the African People's Socialist Party and the Uhuru Movement. Straight ahead, my brother.
Uhuru. Uhuru. First of all, comrades, I really would like to express my deep and profound appreciation, first for the introduction from Comrade Charles Barron. And one of the reasons we love Charles Barron is because we have a saying, it's not what we say, it's what we do. And Charles Barron produces. As much as can be produced within the electoral process, Charles Barron makes it happen, and he makes it happen for the people. And I want to really express my appreciation for him being here, for the introduction that he has made and all of the incredible work he's done. And to Comrade Nellie Bailey, I can't say enough about Sister Nellie. We met Sister Nellie, though she was SNCC, also Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. I did not know her in SNCC, but it's natural that we should be coming together again. But I met her through this struggle that we initiated some years ago. When we were building that resulted in our building the Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and Reparations. And we came to New York. We had a representative here in New York where this struggle was going on around Barack Hussein Obama and his legitimacy as a representative of the interests of our people. And with the line that somehow he represented some kind of post-racial era in this country. And Nellie was fiercely, along with Comrade Glenn Ford in particular, identifying who this man, Barack Hussein Obama, is. And so this was something that attracted us to her. Because we recognized that also some time ago. And in fact, through this meeting, we identified forces that we were able to build the Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and Reparations. And I want to say some things about that moving forward. It has already been mentioned that my home was attacked on July 29th. And as it was said, I was sitting at a dining room table with my wife. It's pre-dawn, it's 5 o'clock in the morning. And I'm up because I'm going to the gym. And because it's Friday. Because today on Fridays, I do back and biceps, right? And because I'm vain. And I want to be able to wear short sleeve shirts and flags, right? So we're up. And as was mentioned, my wife, she presides over several of particularly the economic institutions of our movement, our party. And one of the things that was happening that morning was a program that we had initiated where several African women in North St. Louis were to be trained as doulas, to be able to assist in healthy births for our children. And that's really important in general, just given the conditions of our people in the world. But in North St. Louis, in St. Louis in particular, there's a situation where something like enough Black babies die in the first year of life to fill 15 kindergarten classrooms every year. So we're dealing with that because that's who we are. Because we're a revolutionary organization and our concern revolves around our conviction to eliminate the poverty, oppression, and humiliation of Black people and the oppressed peoples around the world. So we're talking about that. And while we're having this discussion, pre-dawn, while we're having this discussion, this loudspeaker commands us, everybody in this house, to come out with your hands up and nothing in your hands. This is the FBI. And then with this being stated, flashbang grenades, explosions begin to go on around the house. And in the back stairwell of my house, they've also unleashed and detonated these explosions. So I asked my wife to let me go down first and to get on the phone and call the comrades and let them know we are under assault. And she tried, but she couldn't because they had jammed our phones. And so I go down the stairs, and when I exit the house, on my way out, I'm looking at these soldiers, these military forces, dressed in camouflage, flak jackets, carrying automatic weapons, assault weapons. And not only were they carrying assault weapons, they are pointing them at me, and then these laser targeting dots are bouncing off my chest. Not one, not two, but bunches of them. This was really a signal. This was to let me know that they held my life in their hands and that they could take it out if they wanted to. This was terror that they were trying to impose on me. And at the same time, the flashbang grenades are going off in the communities. They've occupied the porch, the house next door, and they put tape over the doorbell video so that nobody could see what they were doing from there. They've knocked in the doors in the back. They've exploded grenades in the back stairwell. They broken in windows in our basement and things like this. At the same time, as it was mentioned, this is in North St. Louis. This is the most economically depressed sector of the city of St. Louis. Same time in South St. Louis, they've also attacked the Solidarity Center, where we've opened up a new front through the Solidarity movement behind enemy lines, so to speak. And so now we have Black power in white face. That's what it is. Just like Obama was white power in blackface, just like Adams is white power in blackface, just like most of the Congressional Black Caucus is white power in blackface. We had black power in whiteface in this instance. And that's important because the African People's Socialist Party was formed with the conscious stated intent to complete the Black Revolution of the 1960s. And the Black Revolution of the 1960s was not running around talking about hands up, don't shoot, and Black Lives Matter. That was not the slogan. That was not what we were about. And at the point where we were running around talking about Black Lives Matter, what kind of slogan is that? I mean, Joe Biden says Black Lives Matter. And the only reason Trump doesn't say it is because Biden said it. Because it's a meaningless slogan that doesn't take you anywhere. It doesn't inform the masses of the people what kind of stance that they have to take, what it is they're struggling around. So we had a revolutionary movement. My comrade, that Tariq and I were just talking about a moment, Sundiata Acoli, is a beloved comrade, a much beloved comrade. My comrade, who was once wrote for the Burning Spear newspaper, who I would visit in Trenton when he was in prison there, and was trying to do everything possible to get him out of there, and some force disrupted that relationship. We can speculate about that on some other occasion. But I mentioned Sundiata, but he was just one. And this is what's really important because we keep talking about Tulu, Sundiata, all these forces, and we treat them like individuals, and we free this individual, but what they represented was an assault, a victory, a military victory over the Black Revolution. They crushed the Black Revolution, and Sundiata was a casualty in that, just as so many other Africans who went to prison. My point, of course, is that the African People's Socialist Party was founded in 1972 with the stated intent to complete that revolution. That's why I was in Trenton with Sundiata. That's why we were talking about freeing all the black political prisoners, not because of some romantic nostalgia, not just because we love them, because of their courage and their commitment to black people to the extent that they would do anything necessary to free us, but because they represented a fundamental contradiction for this whole social system. Sundiata did. And I'm going to say this. It is so fundamental. I'm going to really try to be brief because I want to introduce some concepts that I want us to deal with, some ideas that I want us to deal with. But I want to say this. The Black Revolution, the African Revolution, is fundamental to the existence of this social system. It rests upon the foundation of colonialism. Without colonialism would be no capitalism. Without colonialism would be no capitalism. Marx characterized it as a primitive accumulation of capital because he had to explain how the hell did capitalism come into existence. Somebody tell me. Said some people were making hats in Manchester, and one make one hat, and then they got together, made several hats, and then they started capitalism. No, hell no. The thing that destroyed feudalism, which was the mode of production that dominated Europe at the time. Feudalism, which was a mode of production that had what now are called Europeans because they didn't exist. Was no such thing as Europeans when they left that territory and attacked Africa. Feudalism was something that existed for 1,000 years. And the poverty of those people who live in that territory was so extreme that it's hard for people here to imagine it. So you've seen the movie, perhaps, this thing they have, they call Naked Without Clothes, this reality show. That's what feudalism was. For what now is called Europe. I mean, literally, it is literally true that in certain places the poverty was such that they went naked because they had nothing to wear. I'm saying this not as some kind of throwdown on what we now call white people. I'm saying this to deal with the fantasy that has been imposed on us as history, that somehow white people left this place that they now call Europe and went to Africa, went to the Americas, and everything bringing to us civilization, Christianity, and all those wonderful things that Rudyard Kipling came to call the white man's burden, which is nonsense. It was poverty, despair, a mode of production of pure oppression that was the reality for Europeans, so much so that in the 1300s, the poverty was so great at a certain times that in England, in particular, what we call England, that people were eating their dogs, or somebody else's, eating cats, eating bird manure, I guess for the seeds or something that was in it, and their children. And I'm saying this because you've seen the garbage that they plant, where you have the white man goes to Africa and they have these cartoons with the white man being put in the pot and black people dancing around the pot, committing cannibalism against white people. The cannibalism happened in Europe, where they were eating their own children. This is an objective reality. Google it, because there's a white person at the end of the Google thing that'll tell you, and it makes it more believable when that happens. But that's Europe, and I'm saying this because it's really important for us to understand. So here's what we have. We have 600 years ago, 1415, an impoverished entity that we know is Portugal, which was nothing, which was poor, which was unessential in terms of what we now call Europe, set out from there and kidnapped Africans and initiated this process that we call colonial slavery. Portugal did that. For then, they had nothing. They had nothing. And it was the capture of African people. And then after capturing African people, you had a group that lived in this territory that we call Europe now, who'd identified themselves primarily in relationship to each other. Primarily in relationship to each other, the Celts, the Gauls. Come on, give me something. Saxons, and et cetera, et cetera. This is how these warring tribes consistently, constantly war with each other. That's what you had until Portugal kicked off this thing of stealing black people and capturing black people. And this is the thing that began to initiate the economic rescue of what we now call Europe and what they now call the white man. This is the invention of the white man. This is the instance where now these people no longer identify themselves primarily in relationship to each other, but primarily in relationship to who? Us. This is the invention of the white man. Was no white man. This is the invention of the black man. It was human beings on the planet Earth doing what comes naturally if you're going to have a society that's working to produce and reproduce life. That's the driving motive force of all human society, producing and reproducing human life. I know that goes against the grain because I know the white man is the devil. And I know that, what is the other thing about not the aliens, but the other thing about the genetic mutations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the fact is that without the production and reproduction of life, there is no genetics. There is no culture. There's nothing. The driving motive force in human society to reproduce ourselves, and we reproduce ourselves by putting on a little Marvin Gaye, for if you're old enough, right? Getting on the phone, if you got one, and say, come on over. You understand? That's one way we reproduce ourselves, right? I know we don't call it, let's get together and reproduce life. And of course, the process of reproduction and reproduction of life is the actual process of production itself. That is to say, producing what's necessary. Food, clothing, and shelter. How the hell do we do that? If you ain't got that, you got nothing. And this is the driving force in human society. Do I have any disagreement with that? And so here it becomes this situation where a starving, impoverished, oppressed group of people leave this territory that we now call Europe. And they set off primarily and initially to our Africa. And they attack Africa. Listen, in the years 1347 to 52, 51, 4 years, half the white people on the planet Earth died. Did you know that? Yeah. It's the plague. They call it the Black Plague. And people trying to figure that out. Why the hell do they call it the Black Plague? I just read something the other day. They said, no, they didn't call it the Black Plague in the 14th century when it was happening. They didn't say this is the Black Plague. It only became the Black Plague in the 18th century, 1700 and something. How the hell did it get black? Because now black became this critical factor in the world that had to be defined in a way based on the colonial mode of production that we had. The colonial mode of production that is rooted, the economic base of the whole economy, the economic base is what is coming from Africa, what is stolen from Africa and other colonized peoples around the world. And along with that, of course, is a superstructure that's born. And the superstructure, the ideas, the culture, even religion, and what have you. The ideology that Comrade Charles Barron was talking about, which is why you can find a black Sambo in England, and a black Sambo in the Netherlands, and a black Sambo in Alabama and Mississippi, all over these damn places, because it was a philosophy and ideology, a worldview that was born on the economic base of black people being enslaved and work like animals. And because it's impossible for a society to be able to criticize itself effectively. It can't say, we got all this stuff we got because we stole it from black people, because we killed them, we took it from the indigenous people. That's why we got everything. They don't say that. They say, we got it because they didn't know what to do with it, because we had to go there and rescue them, and et cetera. This is a dilemma that we're faced right now, and one of the reasons we're looking at how the world politic and political and economic configuration of the world is being articulated. Because with this colonial mode of production. When I say colonial mode of production, I want to be clear. I am not talking about a policy of colonialism. Like a policy, we've seen policies of colonialism coming from different states, countries. They had their policy. That's how we're going to make it. That's how we're going to get rich. That's what Leopold did when he went to Congo. That's what this illegitimate white nationalist state called Israel did. Because this is how you get over. You want to make a lot of money in a hurry, go and colonize somebody and steal every damn thing they got and claim it's yours, right? So that is what happened. But pretty soon, what became a policy of a particular state became the way that the whole political economy of the world began to articulate itself. It's a parasitic relationship that's been imposed on everybody. Everybody. The ideas that prevail, the legal system structures that prevail is based on that. The colonial state power that exists based on that. We're talking about the state when the FBI attacked. That's the state that came to my house pre-dawn in the morning, knocking on the door with flashbang grenades. That's the state that's done that. And the state is an organization of bureaucracy and coercion. Its basis is to maintain the status quo, protect the status quo. And the status quo is one of parasitism. It is sucking the blood, the resources, all the resources that come from Africa and most of the colonial countries and this land that they refer to as the United States come to this entity, this illegitimate entity, this white power that we're talking about, the United States. So this is how the state operates. That's what the UN is. That's what the United Nations is. That's what NATO is. That's what a whole array of different kinds of institutions with international capacity. That's what neo-colonialism is. That's white power in blackface all over Africa and in New York. That's what neo-colonialism is. So the white man doesn't even have to come in his own face. He sends somebody who looks just like you, to attack you. And because you're trapped with this notion that you're fighting against racism, which is the ideas in the heads of white people, you can't fight against it. Because how you gonna call it racism? Because it's a black cop that shot him. You understand? It's a black man that's the mayor. How you gonna call it racism? It's colonialism. Colonialism is defined by particular economic and political structures. How do you fight against racism? How do you know when you won? Does somebody come out and wave a flag and say, we surrender? No, the struggle is against colonialism. That's really important for us to understand. And what's really important for us to understand is that we are trapped in a colonial mode of production. Marxists have been able to define several modes of production. They said that the first mode of production they talked about is one that they call primitive communism. In primitive communism, there's no oppression, no exploitation. Everybody is the same. And the one who did most of the work around this notion of what a primitive communism looked like, some people say communalism, they're talking about primitive communism, comes from Frederick Engels, who was Karl Marx's buddy. And in many instances supported him because Frederick Engels' daddy was the bourgeoisie. And Karl Marx wrote one of the most incredibly and most significant tomes in history, Das Kapital, Capital. And Karl Marx was poor and broke most of the time. He was almost aristocrat, but he didn't have no money. That was true of a lot of them, especially during this time when you're looking at the collapse of the feudal mode of production. And so he's writing Capital. And, there's stories. If you read the stories of Marx, he was having a tough time. He was trapped with carbuncles. Is that what you call them? I think those are boils and stuff like that. All kinds of problems that he was having. And we sympathize with Karl Marx. I like Marx, to tell you the truth. I'm saying this about Marx. It's not to be negative, but just to say that theory is born of the necessity of society to solve problems. And Marx had a particular set of problems that he was trying to solve. We got something we got to solve, right? And Karl Marx was solving his problem. He was solving the problem of Europe. and he was writing Capital, and he ran out of money. And his friend, Frederick Ingalls, was sending him money. And Frederick Ingalls was getting much of the money he got from his daddy. And his daddy got much of the money he had from black people enslaved in the Caribbean who was picking cotton and what have you, and he was in the textile industry. And so Karl Marx is writing his books on Capital, Das Kapital, on your back, my back, etc. I'm not pissed off on him about that, but that's the reality. I just don't want us to be confused. I'm not religious at all. You understand? And so I don't, some people are religious and treat theory like religion. It's not religion. And so here's what we had, Karl Marx, and I just wanted to point that out, just how theory is born of material reality. And Karl Marx had a responsibility. He's trying to solve a problem. Because the reality is, as I said earlier, when you look at what is the economic base of society, connected to that is a superstructure, right? And the superstructure constitute the ideas and even religion and culture, ideology that explains things. Marx said, I think famously, that if you really want to understand what's happening and why people are talking the way they're talking, you just can't go by what they say. Look at how the economic base is shifting or acting at any given time, and you can identify it with the science, as accurately as with natural science. And that's why you see so much confusion right now. Back then, you see the emergence not only of Marxism, anarchism, nihilism, all these things trying to explain the world, because feudalism is being overturned. And why is feudalism being overturned? Feudalism is being overturned because a new group of people has emerged that's bringing in more resources, wealthier than the nobility, wealthier than the landlords. And how are they getting wealthy? They're getting wealthy through what? Colonialism, through slavery and what have you. So these people are becoming more powerful, more wealthy, and they are now trying to move forward, and they can't move forward under the nobility. In fact, they had this whole thing. What is it called? This thing about free trade. And what was free trade about? It was that the nobility, the king, control the slave trade. They wanted to be free to participate in selling black people too. This is a literal truth. They wanted to have the right to sell black people too. Only the nobility had that right to sell black people. So you had this democratic struggle that made itself manifest in the white world. Free trade is what it was about. And it was a struggle to overturn. Ultimately, it resulted in overturning the nobility and the feudal system. You did that. Our labor did that. The colonial mode of production was the driving force, and that's what I want, if nothing else comes out of this, for us to understand. Because if you don't understand that, you don't understand the centrality of black people in Africa to the world economy that we live in, and you will always be satisfied in seeing yourself as some kind of minority that's pushed around by history as opposed to ourselves being forces who are responsible for making this history. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. And so I just wanted to say that little bit. And once we understand that, we get rid of this silliness. 1960, was it 66? Incredible, in the 1950s, you saw this movement happen in this country, the whole civil rights movement, all this stuff that was going on. 1950s, Bandung Conference of colonized people all around the world getting together. Black people, people who are not white, who are not colonizers, getting together to talk about how to end colonialism. They were not saying hands up, don't shoot. They were not saying Black Lives Matter. They were quite clear what it was they were fighting for. And so that happened in the 1950s. Not the Bandung Conference. Did you know that Zhou Enlai from China was there? Yes. And other revolutionary forces. We're going to overturn colonialism. Yes. 1966, the Tricontinental Conference happened in Havana, Cuba. It would have happened in Algeria, except the colonizers killed the leader who was supposed to make it happen in Algeria, and it ended up being in Havana. You all know that, right? The tricolonial. What was the tricolonial? Africa, Asia, and Latin America against colonialism. Che couldn't be there because Che was in Bolivia, but he sent a message. They killed Che in Bolivia. And part of the defeat of this revolutionary movement against colonialism was also was part of the CIA hunting down, capturing, wounding and capturing, and then assassinating Che Guevara in Bolivia. But this was the struggle that we were involved in. It's really important for us to understand that, to take ourselves seriously, because we are the driving force and have been the driving force. We just have to become the conscious and organized driving force. That's why Sundiata is locked up. As sympathetic as I may be with Julius Assange and Chelsea Manning, and I'm sympathetic with them, but the fact is that you can make the struggle to free Assange and free Chelsea Manning, and I think they should be freed. But in the process of doing that, you're just improving the system. That's what you're doing. You're improving the colonial capitalist system. But Sundiata, the Black Liberation Army, that's why you can see all these people who can talk about Chelsea, who can talk about Julius' song, and they never mention Sundiata. They never mention the Black Liberation Army, because they are as afraid of having the system overturned as Biden and Trump are. That's why we got to free these comrades. They put them in there and kill them. Put them. It's a death sentence. Once they lock them up, it's a death sentence that they put on Sundiata and all these other comrades. So I wanted to just say that, and then I'm going to say a couple of things and shut up. I think it's really important for us to understand. I want to recognize also Comrade King Downey. I want to recognize King Downey because we got to build a committee to respond to what the FBI has done, what the federal government has done. We're talking about what happened on July 29th. But the FBI is an organization that cut its teeth on the attack on Marcus Garvey. Did you know that? It cut its teeth on the attack on Marcus Garvey. And they were helped at the time by W.E.B. Du Bois. Garvey must go. Du Bois was leading the choir. Garvey must go. Yeah. But in 1951, 52, was it? They charged Du Bois with the very same thing they charged me with right now. They put him on trial for being an agent for what? Russia. Same period of time, Paul Robeson took before the House Un-American Activities Committee by the FBI and all these other forces. What happened on July 29th is not some unique thing. It's historical in terms of the absolute need for a colonial power to keep the colonized oppressed, locked in, because once a parasite, you know what a parasite is, don't you? A parasite is something that lives at the expense of a host. And the parasite and the host, they represent a system. One can't exist without the other. You can't be a parasite without a host, and you can't be a host without a parasite. And so the objective is to destroy that system. But so you have this system. It's parasitic. It's tapeworm. It's like a tick. And you can't talk that tapeworm out of turning your intestines loose. You ain't got enough freedom songs. Prayer will not help in this case. Because if the tapeworm releases you, what happens? It dies. The tapeworm will die. And that's what we've got, a social system of a tapeworm, a parasite that has affixed itself to the body of humanity, all the peoples of the world. You're talking about a world that we live in where 80% of the people on the planet Earth, 80%, are trying to survive off 12 US dollars or less a day. 80%. I know y'all like to talk about the 99% and the 1%, my ass. And something like 50% of the people on the planet Earth are trying to survive off $2.50 a day. And if you're Africa, you're lucky if you can get a meal a day. In all of the places that we're talking about that's impoverished like that, they're being looted. This is where all the wealth is located. England, up until 1945, controlled half of the world's population and half of the world's territory. England, a barren, cold rock, where Cecil Rhodes declared a long time ago, when he was walking through a part of London and people were demonstrating, demanding bread in London. And he said the only way we're going to be able to save this system is that we have to become imperialists. Cecil Rhodes, this is the one for whom Rhodesia was named. This was the one who went into Africa and said that we will establish colonialism from Cape to Cairo, straddle the whole continent of Africa. This is us that they've stolen. I want to say that. I want to say that people correctly salute the Russian Revolution of 1917. Can we get a salute? That was a powerful kind of thing that happened. But, and people, a lot of people see history beginning there. But you got to understand, what was it that provoked the Russian Revolution? And the Russian Revolution occurred when? At the time of the First Imperialist World War. What was the First Imperialist World War fought for? It was the imperial powers fighting each other to redivide the world among themselves. They had already begun this in 1884 and 85 when they got together in Berlin, Germany. And they stopped themselves from going to war over Africa. Let's carve it up. Let's everybody get a piece of it. And so what we had was in 1914, this first imperialist world war happened. And it was a war to redivide the world. What else was happening in 1914? Garvey was happening in 1914. And you saw revolutionary movements happening among colonized people around the world in 1914. The whole period of that period, you can see the red summer in this country. Black people rising up in madness of white terror being waged to maintain the colonial domination of black people. Nicaragua, the same kind of thing was happening. You see, the so-called Middle East was carved up by France and England during this same period. This is where you get the Syria that they are trying to kill people in. They're killing, murdering people today because they carved it up and called it Syria. The Lebanon that we know came as a part of that struggle. And the reason that the Kurds don't have a national homeland because they left the Kurds out when they were carving up and giving different entities this and that. This is the world they created. And the resistance of the people is challenging that world, overturning that world. And that's why you see unending wars happening now. And none of these wars are happening in Europe. These are wars that's being made against the colonized people of the world. I'm talking about whether you like them, or you think it was a good system they have in Iran or Iraq or anything like that. I'm saying that colonialism is the foundation of the whole white power system. And they are murdering and creating mayhem all around the world to maintain it. There are three things that I think is important for us to understand. That is to say that the United States has identified as critical issues at this moment. Russia, that's obvious. You see the war that the United States is waging against Russia right now. They call it Ukraine, but Zelensky ain't got a pot to piss out of. In fact, all my reparations money has been going to Zelensky to kill Ukrainians and Russians, you know. And so Russia is clear. You can't pick up a newspaper. Anytime you pick up a newspaper, found some dead bodies in Ukraine, Russians must have done it. You know, this is what you see every instance, warmongering. And you see also this siloing of information, so you can't hear nothing from any place else in the world about what's happening there, except what they say. China, that's the big dog that they are really concerned about. And then, of course, the thing that they don't talk about is Africa. Africa is critical, has always been critical. And that's why you see today, when you see your guy, Greg Meeks, who puts forth this House resolution that attacks all the African states and African people who will not go along with the U.S. Definition of the Ukrainian issue to be punished by the United States government. And that's why you see Nancy Pelosi, who is on an airplane going to China that they call Taiwan. Because you know that is China, right? Right. It's China. Right. And the only reason they call it Taiwan is because the Uncle Toms, who got their asses kicked by the Chinese Revolution, ran over there and they were protected by the United States government. It was always China. And so Nancy Pelosi, she goes to Taiwan to provoke the Chinese, to create a situation similar to what you see happening with Ukraine. So U.S. cannot confront Russia directly. To confront Russia directly, for England to confront Russia directly, stands a chance of nuclear confrontation, and they don't want that. So it's indirect war. And so now they want to create an indirect war with China. So Pelosi goes to Taiwan. You know who she's got with her on the airplane? Gregory Meeks. He is with her when she goes to Taiwan. Guess what else has happened? For the first time in its 246-year history, the United States Marines has created a 4-star black general and put him in charge of what? AFRICOM, to control Africa. Who is the Secretary of Defense in this country? Lloyd Austin. He is a black man. The first time that's ever happened, they are looking, and that's the guy, outgoing head of AFRICOM, had declared that the strategic problem in Africa is what they call the extremism on the continent of Africa. You know about black extremism, right? Extremism on the continent of Africa and China and Russia. This is where you see this convergence of a profound contradiction. The African People's Socialist Party, we're a small organization. But for the first time in history, since Marcus Garvey created an all-African response to the oppression of our people, we, the African People's Socialist Party, we exist as a party all over Africa. We are in South Africa, as they call it. Not only are we in South Africa, we're in the townships, the impoverished townships. We're in Everton West. We're in Folkville. Folkville. We are all over South Africa. We are in Namibia. We are in Swaziland. We are in various places throughout the continent, including Mali, that's kicking France out right now. Various parts of Africa. The African Revolution is there. Because we concluded a long time ago that the African Revolution had run into its limitations when fought within the borders that have been defined for us by white power. They don't respect no borders. We don't respect the borders that they have imposed on us. So, this is one of the contradictions that they're looking at. We've created these powerful entities. We ain't got no money. What we have, though, is organization and ideology. We've gone to the masses of the people. We've created extraordinary institutions. The people have participated in creating these institutions for economic development. And the economic development, we engage in what we call dual and contending power. Not just dual power, but a power of our own that contends with colonial power. Because the contradiction is that our lives, economically and politically, are controlled by foreign and aliens. The struggle has to be to take our lives back. The struggle has to be able to create and recreate life for ourselves. Because it's not that black people don't create life and recreate life. We just don't create it for us. If your refrigerator is empty, if you don't have food to feed your babies, it's not because there's no food in the refrigerator, it just ain't in your refrigerator. It's in the refrigerator of the colonizer. It's the colonizer who's starving our children, starving our people, etc. Colonialism must die. And this is the thing that makes us a problem. Africa must be free. And I mean this in a literal sense of the word. African people, black people who brought human life and civilization to the planet Earth. We must be free. We must reclaim our dignity, and there's no such thing as a dignified slave that's not engaged in the struggle to kill the slave master and overturn the system of slavery. You cannot have any dignity. You cannot have any dignity without that. So I want to say those things, and I just want to say, just want to remind us when they attacked Muhammad Ali, who refused to go to kill colonized people in Vietnam, who said, ain't no Vietnamese, they ever call me nigga. And when I look at us, the name that my parents gave me was Joe Waller. That's an extraordinary name. And I was an inquisitive person, so I tried to find out where this name Waller came from. I really was, I did. Went to encyclopedias and et cetera. I couldn't find it. It took me to England. But the truth of the matter is that Waller, that name is something that was imposed on me by colonialism, by slavery, and what have you. I have not seen yet an African with a Russian last name. You heard what I just said? I have not seen yet an African with a Russian last name. So the last names that we have been imposed on us by colonialism. So what the U.S. has said is that they indicted somebody in Russia. They said that he was an agent who was not registered to work in the United States. And that the Uhuru movement, the African People's Socialist Party, Jesse Neville, Penny Hess, who else am I missing? Achille Nai, persons who worked for the Russians. And we worked for the Russians in 2017 and 19 when we ran somebody for office, and the Russians paid for it. And they said that, or they suggested it. And they said that, and we're doing this because we want to bring the electoral process in the United States into disrepute. And they said also that when we did a 6-city tour in this country to get African people to sign on to the African Charged Genocide campaign that we were waging against the United States to take to the United Nations, Russians told us to do that. And they said that in our position on the Ukrainian war is based on Russia. Russia, and we had a webinar where we had somebody from Russia to talk about what was happening in Ukraine. Russians told us to do that. And it's so ridiculous, and everybody in this room knows that. You know it because in 1951, 52, Robeson and other people went to the United Nations demanding that the United States be charged with genocide. We charged genocide. Whole book was written about that. Y'all remember that? Yes. So how the hell did I need the Russians? Paul Robeson told me that. You understand? And they said that the elections, and this election question is really important. Comrade Charles Barron mentioned it briefly. Why in the hell would we participate in an election? In the first place, what is an election, a bourgeois election? It's but a non-violent contest between contending sectors of the ruling class for control of the state, for their own profitable advantage. That's what an election is. But they didn't intend for black people to ever participate in the elections. And so masses of African people were engaged in the right to participate in the election. I did. I organized people throughout the state of Florida. I worked for Vernon Jordan, the guy who had Monica Lewinsky's blue dress. I worked in a voter education anti-poverty project under his leadership throughout the state of Florida. I was threatened, my life and my freedom threatened because I was doing that with black people. They didn't intend for us to ever participate. This was supposed to be a thing that happened only among the colonizers, not the colonized. We're not supposed to have any play at all in this process. So we engaged. But by the time in 1965, as a consequence of the struggles that we were involved in 1965, the United States passed this Voting Rights Act. Voting Rights Act passed in 1965. And the Voting Rights Act was supposed to guarantee black people the right to vote. But what else was happening during this time? This was the time they were killing Malcolm X. They were making war against the Black Panther Party in 1969. They killed Fred Hampton. 1968, they killed Martin Luther King. So by the 1965 right to participate in the electoral process was negated by the fact that they had killed anybody who had a revolutionary program that you could even put on the ballot. Our problem was when we ran somebody for office in St. Petersburg, Florida in 2017, St. Petersburg, Florida is only 20% African. Justin Neville here, who is one of the unindicted co-conspirators, we ran him for mayor. And he ran under the slogan, unity through reparations. Akile Anayi, fighting against this thing that terrorizes us all around the country, gentrification of our communities. She ran under the slogan, make South St. Petersburg black again. This is what we were doing with that election. And then Akile Anayi, young African woman, led 200 white people downtown St. Petersburg going unity through reparations. That's the problem they got with the election. Ain't no goddamn Russians. That was the problem that they had, because now what we have done is we've taken the electoral process. They killed Malcolm. They wiped out all the people. Malcolm and Martin Luther King talking about a poor people's campaign. And we've taken the revolutionary concepts and positions and put them on the ballot.
Yeah.
Black community control of the police, put it on the ballot.
Yeah.
We organized the Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and Reparations. We hold every year schools to teach African people, ordinary people, how to participate in the electoral process. Why? Because we want to break up the monopoly of the African petty bourgeoisie, those people who that Charles Barron has to fight against all the time. Because the neo-colonialism in this country functions primarily, it gets elected. So these people who run for office, they kill off your revolutionary leaders and put some traitor in place. They build him up and then send him to Taiwan. Well, we need to make sure that he can't come back. And so this is what we've done with the political question. I just wanted to say that, and there's much more that could be said about Ukraine and about all of that, because you have been fundamental to this whole struggle that gave birth to the Russian Revolution. You, black people have, colonized people have. And also I wanted to recognize one of the forces that was really important for us. I was talking to Comrade Villa earlier. He was a member of the Puerto Rican Socialist Party. And we worked with the Puerto Rican Socialist Party in 1976. This is when they were pushing this whole patriotic nonsense about bicentennial. Some people old enough to remember that. They painted fire hydrants and curbstones and everything, red, white, and blue, and they talking about bicentennial. And the Puerto Rican Socialist Party was responsible for organizing in Philadelphia a bicentennial without colonies, and we worked with them on that. Comrade Saladin was a part of that as well. I wanted to mention that because we're still talking about the colonial mode of production. We're talking about colonialism. We're talking about colonialism when we look at what's happening in Puerto Rico at this very moment. People want to attribute this to forces of nature. That ain't nature. That's colonialism that destroyed infrastructure, that sucked out all of the resources in Vieques, where they've used it as a bombing range for I don't know how many years and what have you that we're looking at in Puerto Rico. And that's true of all the other areas in the Caribbean that you see the effects of this. And every place else that we are located, mudslides, floods, and what have you. They destroy infrastructure and make it impossible for us to develop infrastructure, and that's what's happening. So I'm hoping that the people in this room will participate in what we call a counter-offensive, not just a defense committee, but a counter-offensive committee. We want to charge the FBI if I can ever get the money. I mentioned King Downing because he's played a really critical role in terms of the development of this committee, because we need lawyers, and we need a lot of lawyers, and this is critical, and this is where white liberals and things like this play such a fundamental role. And the reason they play a fundamental role is because the African Revolution needs to have access to all the democratic space in this country. We created the space. If there's democratic space, the right to vote, all that stuff, black people did it. Churches bombed in order to make it happen and whatever. No white liberals were there. We did it. So we demand access to the democratic space so that we can put on the ballot reparation. So we can put on the ballot recall sellouts. Adams can be recalled. And if he's not recalled, make him spend a lot of money trying to defend himself from the people who want to recall his ass. You know what I'm saying? This is what has to happen. But if we don't have access to that because we don't have no money, they got all the damn lawyers. They lock the lawyers up. They create committees of lawyers that's supposed to be progressive and revolutionaries and what have you. But you can't have access to them without their permission. And what they do when they do that is they deny us access to the democratic space that we need to pursue the revolution so that we can win masses of black people into a higher level of political activity and consciousness. Because nobody tries to solve a problem the hard way. Who you ever see doing that? The first way that people try to solve a problem is the easy way. It's easier to go vote. It's easier to vote than it is to do what Sundiata has done. And so at least you assume that you can go vote and not be awakened in the morning at 5 o'clock with flashbang grenades and FBI with automatic weapons. We need access to that. This is critical. We need a lot of money because I don't want to just sit back and wait for them. I'm a so-called unindicted co-conspirator, which means that any day now, which means I can walk out of that, which means they can come in here and say that I'm indicted. They can arrest me or they can make those dots in my chest more meaningful and assassinate me because of some Russian connection. They've got the ability now to divert the criticism of the United States by saying that ain't black people saying that, that's Russians. They're saying that we didn't attack black people in the most economically depressed sector of North St. Louis. It was Russians that we attacked. This is the line that they've developed. And that's why it's really important for us to take a stand. We need money. We need lawyers. I want to sue the FBI. Yeah. I want to sue the FBI. Yeah. I want to sue the FBI for violation of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Because they said the same thing that the crackers were saying when they was killing us and chasing us in Mississippi and Alabama, that it's outsiders who sent you here. It's the Russians communists who told you to do this. What's the difference in Joe Biden's Justice Department saying that and some redneck in Mississippi or Alabama who's bombing our churches or shooting us down? Ain't no damn difference. They don't like what we do in the elections, and so they say that somehow Russians told us to do that. I want to sue them. I want to make them have to defend themselves. I want to make them have to defend their system. I want to make them have to defend what they say they believe in. Because this has been a fundamental contradiction of colonialism. Because the whole white, so-called democratic capitalist system came into existence struggling to define itself or defining itself as democracy. It's a liberal democracy. It's a democracy that assumes that everybody has the right to pursue her interests using the electoral process. Everybody has that right. But people have challenged them consistently, and they've had, even within their own countries, how the hell can you say that everything is based on democracy? How can you have all this democracy in England while you are killing black people in Nigeria? Right. How can you have this democracy in England while you're killing people in India and what have you? So this is where you see the advent. They can't vote, but you vote. England, the thing was so pacific, that the cops didn't even carry guns. In England, they said, look, the English police, England is so wonderful, the cops don't even carry guns. No, they didn't carry guns in England, but they carried them in India. They carried them in Nigeria. They carried them all these other places where they were dominating people and whatever, because that's where the class contradiction is located. The class contradiction in the real world is concentrated in the colonial contradiction. That's where it is. And this is the only way that we're going to get out of it, by attacking the roots, which is colonialism, and white people will be able to engage for the first time in a genuine class struggle by working to overthrow colonialism in this country and around the world. Thank y'all. Uhuru.
Wow. Was that not powerful? Let me just say a couple of things. It's almost my mea culpa. I mentioned a number of people whom I ask you to say presente to, for rather, but I did not mention the political prisoners. I have admonished myself for the past 15 minutes, because those are the people who were truly tested and gave their lives for Black liberation. And I do hope that you forgive me. The latest being Thomas Blood. What was Thomas? McQuarrie. Thomas was in the Black Panther Party, and so many others. Free all political prisoners. Free all political prisoners. Free them all. Free them all now. Free them all now. And I hope you, brothers and sisters, forgive me and that my moment petty Black bourgeois politeness. Forgive me. Now we're going to move on. And is King Downing still here? Yeah. King, I hope that you will come up at some point and talk to us about the legal defense campaign and the work that you're doing. Would you agree to do that? Okay, thank you very much. Now, this is why you're here also. How much are you willing to support this movement? Are you willing to yourself and to go out among your friends, family, church, whatever institution you belong to, whatever radical organization you belong to support the legal defense fund of the Uhuru movement? It is estimated that $500,000 at a minimum is needed. So our work is cut out before us. Now, our next speaker is going to be someone who is going to talk more about that, and I'm not sure who that is. What is it? You, Jesse? Is it? Who's going to come up and talk about the campaign? Rondé? Are you here? Oh yeah, come up and talk. You're next. Oh yeah. How you doing? Okay, good to see you. Good to see you.
Yeah, Uhuru. I know we all appreciate the presentation that the chairman just gave us in terms of why we're here, why we need to be here, and why we all need to participate in this process. This is an opportunity for all of us. If we believe in what we just heard, we know the importance of what was just said, that we all can participate in this process. Because we're up against not just the FBI, which was laid out, but we're against the US government, the international imperialist US government, because it sees in the Uhuru movement the African working class organizing itself for its own interests and to gain self-determination and to ultimately lead to self-governance on the continent of a liberated, united Africa. And that's, again, why they would attack the Uhuru movement and our leadership and the solidarity force that the party has created to build that black power and white face behind enemy lines. And it's very important, as the chairman laid out, for that activity to be organized. So right now, you who's here in the room tonight, who heard the presentation, if you unite with that, the truth of it, the facts of it, the history of it, this is your opportunity to participate in that. And like the call is for resources. And being colonized people is always an economic question of lack of resources. And this is an important struggle, an important movement that's historic. And you can participate in it. Everybody can participate in that by helping us to raise resources for the legal defense team, who's going to be able to wage the fight back against the FBI and the US government attack on our movement and our leadership. So I'm asking the comrades to pass around donations to you. You can give everybody an envelope so they can participate in this process to help us build the legal defense team as we make this fight of resistance against the attack on our movement and our liberation, our happiness, and the future of our children. It's that important. So as they're passing out the flyers, I also want to make note that on our table here, we have the Burning Spear newspaper, the oldest revolutionary newspaper in existence. On our table is $1 as well. You shouldn't go home without a copy of the Burning Spear newspaper. This keeps you abreast of what the party is doing, what the movement is doing, not just here, but around the world. So it's important that you get the Burning Spear. Also at our table, we have water. If you want to quench your thirst, we have a water at our table that you can utilize as well. We also have some of the chairman's books on the table. If you want to learn more about what the presentation was tonight in terms of African internationalism and colonialism, you can pick up on that in the chairman's books on our table as well. Yeah, Uhuru.
I think we also have to have a goal in terms of the amount of money we want to raise, because you don't know if we succeeded or not. We don't have a goal, right? So we need to have an idea, how much money can we raise tonight? That's one thing. And then the other thing is that part of what I'm hoping can happen out of New York is that we can bring a busload of people from here to November 5th to the Black is Back Coalition annual mobilizations. This was the fifth, 14th mobilization annually we had on Washington, D.C. to the White House. And we think it's going to be really important for us to demonstrate this opposition right there under the slogan, hands off Uhuru, hands off Africa. Because we want to make it clear that it's bigger than just us. Uhuru, you know what Uhuru means. It means freedom. And hands off Africa. It's going to be really important for us to do this. Africa has become a recognized part of the equation that's being fought around today, because everybody wants a piece of Africa. And everybody's got an Africa plan, but we have one too, finally. And so I'm hoping that we can win you to really consider trying to organize at least a bus. I've seen you do that before from New York. I've seen you bring a whole bunch of buses. Like when Jesse asked y'all, when the Jackal asked y'all, and when when Charlatan asked y'all, I've seen buses, a load of people come. I'm hoping that we can do that for November 5th. It's the 5th and the 6th that there's going to be a rally, a march on the White House, and then on November 6th, a conference. But I can understand how you might not be able to have a bus for 2 days, at least on the 5th. That's what we're asking. And so how much money can we raise? What can we get out of here today? Yes.
I just want to say that if people don't have money on them now, like 25,000, something like that, they can go to handsoffthehuru.org and they can donate. We have pledge forms here too. So if you want to make pledges, like monthly payments or something, fill out this pledge form as well.
Is there $1,000 in the room? If one person has $1,000, we can stop.
Well, what I'm going to do now,
Okay.
I'm going to give $50 tonight, but when I get back, I'll send you $1,000. When I get back.
All right.
And I've already asked Inez if I can do this.
You better ask Inez.
I'm going to leave the 50. I'm going to send you the 1,000.
Right on.
But I got to get back to Brooklyn.
Right on. Uhuru. Uhuru.
Chairman, I enjoyed you today, man.
My man.
Uhuru. Shamari
We're
Baruti.
gonna do something. Charles don't know it yet. I've been telling him this for years, but we're going to do something on this whole electoral thing. You see where I'm trying to go with it, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Uhuru. Yeah. Charles. Is there another 1,000 in the house?
Anybody can match the 1,000
Is there another 1,000 in the
from
house?
Shamari Baruti?
We've got
We got 50.
Is there 500 in the house?
Nellie Bailey, 500.
All right.
All right.
Uhuru.
Anybody want to match Nellie's 500?
Is there another 500 in the house? Is there 250 in the house?
250.
What's happening? 250. 125?
125.
Is there 125 in the house? Is there $100 in the house? There's 100. Penny Hess, 100. All right. Anybody else? Pledge 100. Kimber, anybody else? What you got? Who pledged 100? Oh, what's your name, sister? Sister
Albro.
Albro.
All right. Uhuru.
Anybody else? Is there another 100? That's all right. Is there another 100 in the house? Anybody else? Is there $50 in the house? Who's got 50? There's 50. What's your name, sister? Say it again. Tiani. All right, $50 here. Is there another 50? Here's 50 over here. What's your name? There's Allie with 50. Is there another 50 in the house? There's another 50. What's your name, comrade? Struggle. Alucha. Alucha. Yeah.
Is that Bill?
Yeah, that's saying the same thing twice. Yeah. So is there 25 in the house? Here's 25. What's your name, sister? Vera? I love your hair, Vera. Yes. Is there another 25 in the house? There's 25. What's your name, little brother? Say it again. Roger? Quadra. We met this brother, where we meet this brother? In St. Louis. I want to invite everybody in the house to come to St. Louis, by the way. You need to see what's happening in St. Louis on the ground that represents such a threat to them. You need to see that. You really do. So I'm inviting everybody to come to St. Louis. Take a look at that. Is there anybody else who wants to make any contribution other than what's been mentioned already? Is that it? What's your name, sister? Veronica. What was your last? Did you say her last? Nikki? Oh, Veronica, Nikki. Thank you so much, sister. Yeah. We're gonna let everybody know what's been done for how much money we've raised. Is there anything else? What's your name, comrade? Let the lovely person there speak first. Yeah. I see it. It's contagious. We should have had everybody sit over there.
Thank you.
What's your name, comrade? You're leaving now. What's your name? The comrade here with the standing with the jacket on. What's your name? Yeah, what's your name, comrade? Sydney? And you made a contribution too, right? Thank you, Sydney. And what's your name, comrade? Yes. Samia. Samia? Thank you so much, comrade. Uhuru.
Is that Miss Halaby?
Yes, Nellie Billy. So I'm hoping that everybody can go to handsoffuhuru.org and see more about how we can participate in this campaign. We want to really be able to overwhelm them. They have made this political war against us, and they're using the law. We can't beat them with the law alone. We beat them by having an army of forces on the ground demonstrating opposition to what they are doing. That's the thing that will make any victory possible in the court. What we do on the streets is going to determine what will happen in the courts. So this is really critical. Thank you.
Okay, folks, we're winding down here. We're going to ask King Downing to come up only for a couple of minutes, and then we're going to open it up for 1 minute would be perfect, and then we're going to open it up for Q&A. King.
Thank you. Uhuru! Look, it's been a little long evening. The folks are dropping off in their energy. Uhuru! All power to the people. All power to the people. I want to recognize the Black Panther Party veterans who are here and the BLA veterans. Please stand up. I see Brother Tariq here and Brother Shep. Okay. So my name is King Downing. I was a community worker for the Black Panther Party, and that is what inspired me to get into the law, because when I found out that Huey Newton had studied law books and he used the law in order to put together the street patrols and knew that he had a right to carry a weapon within the city limits, that told me that the law was one of the tactics that we could use. And then Kathleen Cleaver, who later went to law school. But I'm here now as a representative, member of the Central Committee for the Uhuru Legal Defense Committee. And you can finish this for me. Freedom ain't free. Freedom ain't free. So thank you all for digging in your pockets. I know you probably gave from the comfort zone, but we need you to give till it hurts, till you feel it. Every movement has had lawyers who have given their time but needed legal expenses in order to fight these battles against a system that takes our tax money and the reparations and the colonial monies that were raised and spend those in prosecuting us. So they have full fat salaries. They have all kinds of people, including some people who might be here tonight. But we need to find the resources, go right here, give a second time around and a third time around here. We're also looking for labor resources. You know, it takes money and it takes labor. If you've got some kind of legal skill, you have some kind of outreach skill, if you have some paralegal skill, if you want to learn those skills, go here, put your name down, we'll put you to work, and we're going to build a self-defense committee that's going to win not only the defensive part. I wanted to make the name the Uhuru Legal Offense and Defense Committee. Maybe we'll change the name, but the idea is that we're going to go on the offensive once we deal with the defensive. We're going to protect the unindicted co-conspirators. We're going to also protect the organizations who are also unindicted as well. So let's get busy, reach in your pockets, give some more, email them, we'll get your information, and we'll all work on this. And we're going to win. We will win.
Okay, folks, we're going to open it up to Q&A, and Lisa Davis is going to be the roving mic person. So there is a second mic. Okay, hands up.
Okay. And we ask everybody to please be brief. Thank you so much.
As far as the unindicted, I'm just not clear on who has been indicted, and what are the charges? And that's what we'd like to know.
A Russian national has been indicted in Russia. And should he ever come? A Russian national in Russia has been indicted. His name is Alexander Ayunov. And he has been charged with being an unregistered agent of a foreign power operating inside the United States. And I've forgotten exactly the title of the indictment. And we, not just me and the other three people who were mentioned, but as King Downing said, our whole organizations are unindicted co-conspirators. So at any given moment, they have the ability to attack everything we've done. They stole all of our materials. They stole every text for numbers of years, every email, everything that we've communicated with each other, and they will construct the story that they want to construct based on what they have taken from us. They've gone to our archives and what have you. We're not going to be able to fight this from a purely defensive posture. And I'm glad this was raised because we have to not allow them to lock us into sort of a news span attention level. Because right now, I mean, especially when this happened immediately, you know, there's an explosion of attention that was paid. Africans still are looking at this. But then, you know, we have to deal with if Chris Rock is going to slap the other guy back, and if they ever bury that dead white woman in England, and and then they've got these what do they call them, against the Trump group, subpoenas, etc. So all this stuff is out there circulating, and giving them an opportunity, because this is what they're trying to do now. They're trying to conflate every struggle. There was white people who were climbing the walls like spider people on January 6th, and who are roaming around the country today, really threatening the ability to have an election in 2024 that's based on the principles that they've had before. They are trying to conflate all of that with the attack on us. But the reality of the attack on us is an attack on, historical attack on the Black liberation movement, never had anything to do with Russia. Next month, I will be 81 years old. And I have spent more than most of my life, the majority of my life has been spent fighting against this social system. No Russian ever had to tell us anything about it. No Russian told us that there was a white man with his knee on the neck of George Floyd. No Russian told us that a white cop gunned down Mike Brown in Ferguson and left his body for 4.5 hours on 100-degree plus asphalt there as an example for all the people there. So we have to have this massive response to it, and we have to make it clear. That's why we say hands off Uhuru, hands off Africa. Ain't got nothing to do with Trump. It has nothing to do with just the quote-unquote right to dissent, the way they would narrow that thing down, the right for Black people to be able to advocate and organize around the liberation of African people. That's what it is about, Uhuru. Yeah.
Next question, please.
Yeah. I'm not going to speak so long.
Glad to be here. I was invited by my friend Richie here.
Thank you, Richie.
A few words of wisdom for the movement. Each one teach one to reach one, because knowledge at any price is a bargain when you consider the cost of ignorance. That was stated by the Chancellor of Harvard University some years ago at commencement graduation proceedings, and it's right. Okay, it'll be right 100 years from now, because truth stands the test of time, but lies are soon exposed. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Richie.
Are there hands on this side of the audience? This side of the room? Anyone?
There's a sister
Right
there.
here.
From the documents that were confiscated, is there anything in there that could hurt the organization, possibly?
I'm sure they were construe it any way they want to. I mean, they got all the documents. I mean, first of all, let me just say that the whole case is contrived. The whole story is a lie. So the question you're asking me is, will they use any of this stuff to try to support the lie they told? And I'm telling you, yes. If they want to, they can probably manufacture something that would, get a divorce between me and my wife. They got all the texts and everything that's ever been said, through any of these mediums that we have. So, in fact, lawyers have told us, King Downing, that we shouldn't be talking. Because even what I'm saying now, you see, they will use it as some kind of evidence of the fact that I'm working for Russia. And the only reason, I'm not being as strong in my response to that is because I'm trying not to be profane. But if I were Pam Africa, I'd say something like that.
Remember this saying, in this country, you can indict a ham?
Yeah.
Sandwich,
Yeah.
yes.
We have a question over here. Brother Shep.
Yeah, I just wanted to
That's
mention.
up.
Yes, Shep.
All right. Yeah.
Uhuru.
Uhuru.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, you were talking about last names.
Yeah.
Well, recognized as the greatest writer in Russia was an African
Pushkin.
name. That's
I know.
it.
Well, I'm
Pushkin.
glad he mentioned Pushkin, by the way. I was in Moscow, right? But I was also in Managua, right? I was also in Belfast during the era of the Troubles, right? I've traveled to Swaziland. I've traveled a whole bunch of places. They stole a Russian flag when they were stealing stuff, and there was a Russian flag that was in the place. But there's also a flag of the Starry Plough that is for the Irish, struggle. There was Spain, Mexico. They could find all kinds of flags there because we are internationalists. And we experience solidarity with peoples all around the world. But what was your question again, Chef?
No, I just wanted to make that comment. That was the last name.
Yeah, and Pushkin. So I was in Moscow. And when I was in Moscow, you won't find this in America. When I was in Moscow, I went to the metro station in Moscow, like the big subway. It's a magnificent situation. It's the most beautiful thing. And then over the sound system, there's this extraordinary voice that's singing the International in Russian. Paul Robeson. Black man.
I heard it.
Black man, you heard it.
Yeah, when I was in Russia.
Yes. And then, and they have Pushkin Square. They got a statue of Pushkin, black man. They're tearing down and throwing flags in the sea here, and that is to say statues and things like that because of slave masters and stuff. That's what I saw in Russia. So I just wanted to say that.
And on Alexander Pushkin, read John Oliver Killen's
Yes.
biography
Yes.
on Alexander Pushkin. John Oliver Killen's, a black man.
Yes.
A black historian.
Yeah. I would also say Dumas. You can go around different places and you can see different kinds of, Alexander Dumas. But the point, the point that I'm making, don't you? Yeah. African.
My name is Tyreek. Do you think black people, thank you. Do you think black people are realizing the importance of you saying that the Secretary of Defense is black, the head of the Marines is black, Pamela Harris used to work in intelligence, and that they are carrying out gentrification, they're carrying out gerrymandering, and they're carrying out voter suppression. Do you think that when you point that out, that black people are realizing the centrality of black people in all of this and our colonial status? And the colonial status is very important, as the chairman pointed out. And what is being talked about is they chose this word to express their relationship with countries because it comes from the colon. The colon, when food passes through the colon, it takes out everything of value and leave waste. And that's why they use the word colony when they express their relationship to our people. Do you think black people are realizing the importance of you saying the centrality of all of this?
I don't think that's necessarily in general, but I do know this, that Africans are like other people to this extent. In every society, for whatever reasons, and sometimes they're manifold, there emerges like what we might characterize an advanced sector of that society. Those are people, for whatever reason, will create the Harlem, what do you call it? I'm thinking not just about the anti-war movement, but the work around the tenants. And what is it that makes somebody say, I'm going to take this on? And all the other things that happen. These are advanced forces in the community. That's what people who form political parties, they are the advanced sectors of a population. The Harlem Tenants Association, these are advanced section of any population. Here's the issue. White people do not think the way they think because of some kind of magic, right? It's because the advanced sector of the white population, the colonizer, is the one that sets the terms for how people understand things, build organizations for them. But when we build advanced sectors, that's why Malcolm is dead. That's why Sundiata went to prison. That's why they destroy all of our organizations. So the advanced sector cannot, so the masses of our people cannot have the advantage of the leadership that comes from the advanced sector in the Tenants Association or wherever it is that we might be. But that's what we were doing on the ground. When people were members of the Black Panther Party, we didn't wait for something. We were knocking on doors. We were organizing in community. Organizing wasn't something sitting in front of a computer and saying you got 10,000 friends of people you never met in your life. You know, organizing didn't have to do with a relationship with a damn computer screen. It had to do with a relationship with other human beings, because African people, humans are social animals. And you have a different relationship. I don't care how many likes you get. And all those people that you call your friends, please, half of them in the FBI any damn way. You understand? So yes, I believe that's the work that we do, and I think that's what they're trying to keep us from doing. I think that's part of the reason they're bombing our houses and things like that. That's why they killed Malcolm. That's why they killed King. That's why they killed everybody who's the advanced sector. They don't want the people to have access to their own leadership. And that's the risk that's involved in every instance. That's why when people say, well, you know, you can't be saying all of that because when you say that, they know you're there and they'll come and kill you. But here's the tension. You have to say something, but yeah, because the people have to know you're there.
That's right.
You have to identify yourself to the people. When you identify yourself to the people, you are acknowledging that you're also identifying yourself to the state. And they will come at you, and the only security that we have is in the people, which is what Mao Zedong meant when he said that the gorilla must be as the fish in the sea, and the people are the sea. And so anyway, that's part of what I would say. Yes, and you know, and what I'm saying now is not that complex, because if I can understand, any damn body can understand. You understand? And I think we have some people who are so arrogant who assume that the people are too dumb and too stupid to understand stuff. But that's why we work right among the people. I'm going to say this, Tariq, and when we went into Ferguson, and we went there were in Ferguson, after they killed Mike Brown, there were more sellouts in Ferguson, came from all around the world than you can find any place in the world per square inch, right? And there was all kind of money that would have been pumped into Ferguson. What's that rich white guy, billionaire name? That's what's his name? No, I'm not talking about that. Soros and all these other folks were putting all kind of money there. And so we sat down and we built organization on the ground, right there in the communities. And the organization we have in St. Louis are from working class people who live in St. Louis. One woman who had never been in political life, she was a young woman, she was an evangelist. She grew up she following me when we involved in the demonstrations in Ferguson. She's now, she just up until a couple of weeks ago, was the leader of an international organization. This is a woman who never had political life before. And we brought it to her, we brought it on the ground among the people, because the people are the real makers of history. And so, Tariq, I know I preached a lot, but yeah, I think that people don't know it, but people will know it, people can know it, and that's what our job is, and that's what Sundiata was doing, that's what all those other people, that's what Asada was doing, and that's why they had to try to knock us out of the box, et cetera.
We have this person over here, and then I'll be over there.
Hello, hi. My name is Jessica Coco, and
What's your
I'm
last name, Jessica?
Coco.
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 Hey, Jessica.
Hello. I mean, this is very sad what's happening, but this is only just the beginning. I mean, the repression is going to get very, very bad, and we have to start organizing now, right now. No one talks about it because of all the money that's been spent everywhere, neither on the quote so-called left or right. But March 16th, 2020, that was the day that the Great Depression, too, began. That was Bloody Monday. No one is talking about it. BLM, Antifa, even COVID, they're all distractions so that we don't organize. In the 1930s, 9.6 million people starved to death in this country because the price of food was unaffordable. 32 million people are going to be evicted by the end of this year. Price of food is expecting to quadruple. People need to wake up. We need to fight the New World Order. The digital currency is going to come. Already Sweden, March 2023. But we need to organize now, and we need to be defending our comrades. Thank you.
Thank you. But we are talking about it. And I think that's really important for us to understand. We are talking about it. And the reason that we're under attack is because they don't want this discussion to happen. They don't want the people to be organized. We are talking about it. And I want people to recognize that, because when you look at the so-called Great Depression that happened in this country, we black people live with the Depression, I mean, in real numbers, in terms of the income that's in our communities historically, where they declare that Depression is something, what, like 10% of unemployment or something like that? I mean, that's historically African people, we ain't had a job since slavery, when everybody was employed. Full employment, that's the only time we saw full employment as African people under slavery. And so what is the thing that we used to say all the time in our community? First fire, last hire, first fire. That's been typical. And the thing that has to happen, I want white people who can recognize things like depression to recognize it before it gets to you. You understand? Because we live with it. I cannot express enough to you how African children who cannot even aspire to any future, you cannot realistically, there's a ceiling even placed on their imagination of the possibilities living under colonialism. But I agree with you, we are fighting those things. I'm a communist. And the thing that, if anything, distinguishes me is the fact that I recognize that this so-called capitalist social system rests upon a foundation of colonialism. If you really want to get to communism, you got to overthrow colonialism that is the foundation of the capitalist system. Yeah. Here's what Marx said. Marx said that wage slavery in Europe, as I say, capitalist production, etc. He said wage slavery in Europe required as a pedestal slavery pure and simple in the New World, which is a powerful statement. Because when he talks about wage slavery, he's talking about the working class. And what working class was he talking about? He was talking about the European working class. Wage slavery in Europe, white workers in Europe, the existence of white working class in Europe required as a pedestal enslaved African people. You want to overthrow capitalism? Then get to the root. And we are the damn root. And that's why we are the ones who are constantly attacked. And that's why they were using bombs at pre-dawn bomb raiding on my house, July 29th. So I thank you. And I really appreciate your interest in doing that. We want to do it too. We want to destroy a social system so you have these cycles that they characterize of booms and busts and then starvation that people talk about all the time. We can destroy that. We can end that. But you got to go to the root.
We have a question over here from this. I thought you have a question, right? I thought you had one.
I was going to make a statement. You had mentioned.
Can they hear you? You guys speaking to the mic.
Good day.
Yeah.
You had mentioned England.
Yes.
their racism as well. I remember Margaret Thatcher had no browns around. They didn't want black people around, you know. So also during you mentioned Mike Brown. Now, there were a lot of black men and organizations there. They killed many of them, and that's
sure
when
did.
Soros and them
They
put
sure
them in
did.
charge. Devon Seals was
Yes.
sealed in his car
Yes.
and burned alive, right? That young man. So
There's a video. You will see me on August 30th making a speech in front of the police station, and behind me is Darren Seals. Darren Seals is behind me, you know, cheering it on. Yeah. So yes, yeah. Go ahead.
And well, I know about when Sharpton came. Some folks here let him know, and he ran out the back door.
Indeed, he did.
He ran out the back
Yes.
door. So activists they chased him out. That's right. So also with all this going on, America had dropped a bomb on Somalia while they're sitting here talking about Ukraine.
Yes.
So the Mississippi children, 8-year-olds, are running up to your car saying they will pick cotton for food.
Yeah.
So they also know that they're not giving public assistance in certain areas to certain people. They're also, they have, with what's happening in Jackson, Mississippi, you know, there was a reverend, when they did it in Flint, he went around with the fire department and opened up some of the fire hydrants so people could have clean water. Now, they had the singer, what's the name of the company that makes washing machines? They didn't have to pay any bills for a year, but if you didn't pay your water bill with the rusty water, they would turn his lights off so that he would not be able to cook, clean, eat, and so forth. So this is a system, Pickney. That's right, Reverend Pickney.
We work with Reverend
So
Pickney.
they knew what.
Yes, yeah.
Right. I remember him at United African Movement. Let's see. Now, the children also are saying they would be drug dealers for food. These are 8-year-olds walking up to your vehicle.
Most people are drug dealers for food.
Right. But
Except
just
the
saying,
one, except the
but I'm
corporate
just saying
head.
they want to grow up.
You are Zelensky,
Yes.
who is a cokehead.
Yeah.
How many of you knew that?
Well, Biden and what's the other one? And Trump's both their sons are over there.
Hunter Biden is one of them. Hunter Biden.
Right.
Yeah.
They're on drugs as well, right? I didn't say it. The Daily News said it on the front page, right? Okay.
Thank you so much, sister.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, we got,
Yeah.
do we have time?
How are we in terms of time, please?
Time? Is anybody keep it?
8:36.
Oh, we've got time. Let's continue.
Okay. Who had? Okay, you.
How many people gonna get on the bus coming to D.C. to march on the White House on November 5th? Or let's get the list of those people coming, Sister Lisa. We want to make sure we get.
Hi, good evening.
Yes.
My name is Shahid Comrade, and I'm a Secretary General Pakistan USA Freedom Forum. I really enjoyed this thing, and it's eye-opening. And thank you very much for your bravery and for your whole life. You pointed out really very correctly. It's a colonialism.
Yes.
It's a colonialism.
Yes.
And nowadays, corruption is another thing because they use corruption to put their agenda. My corrupt prime minister, we call him Crime Minister Shehbaz. He is in Plaza Hotel. We will see him tomorrow at 12 o'clock. So I want to say thank you very much. But one thing I'm going to ask you that, please, if you mention Muslim prisoners and other prisoners, if you mention this thing, no doubt we are a very weak community. We're very new in this country, and we are Muslim. We are immigrant, we are Muslim, and we are poor. So that's our three strike.
I want to thank you for that.
Dr. Afia
intervention.
Siddiqui, 23rd Street, 23rd September, she got 86 years jail, Muslim woman. So we're fighting for Julian Assange.
Yes.
We are behind you.
Thank you.
We are
Thank
Muslim
you
behind
very
you.
much.
Thank you very much.
I want to make sure I want to say something about that issue because Muslims in this country came here on slave ships. Some of the Africans who were captured on the continent of Africa were Muslims. So one person that's noted is somebody who had memorized the entire Quran and had written it while he was here in this country. And of course, the most notorious Muslim sect is the one that gave birth to Malcolm X, the Nation of Islam, however anybody want to characterize that. And so, and the issue is Muhammad Ali. When he declared that he was a Muslim, that's when this attack, as long as he was Cassius Clay, as long as he carried the name of the colonizer, they had no problems with him. So it's easy to sympathize with that because most of what we saw initially, anyway, coming from Muslims in this country was resistance. And the truth of the matter is that most of the places in the world that are occupied by Muslims are poor and oppressed. And Islam has become, for many people in the world, a religion of resistance. And that's just the reality that we're confronted with. We can talk about that more from a lot of different angles and should. But I'm extraordinarily sympathetic. And I've seen, particularly in England, Sister was mentioning about England, how it's not just Muslim, but especially comrades, people from Pakistan, oppressed in England and various other places. So we are extraordinarily sympathetic, and I hope we can maintain contact with
Also,
you.
there were people who raised their hand and said they wanted to be on the bus, so we have a sign-in sheet if you want to sign it.
Yeah.
And you had to.
You were going to say something, Comrade Penny? Oh, that's somebody else is speaking. Yeah.
Yes, I just wanted to say thank you for your courage. So many people, when they get into power, sell out the power. You have it. You've done it your whole life. And I want to thank you for coming to New York so I can actually meet you instead of watching you only on TV. So I want to meet that person because he has courage. He stands by what he says, and he doesn't back down. And I want to thank you for that.
Thank you,
I
Comrade
just
Ricky.
wanted to bring up, I'm an anarchist my whole life.
Yes.
But I've never been, I'm an anarchist. If you're not, I'm not working with you, or I don't like you. I've never
Right.
been like that.
Right.
I think that's stupid. That's sectarianism. So my dear friend, I learned so from over there in the BLA. I've learned so much from him that I thank him, that I met him all these years and know him all these years, Tariq. And I've been working on an anarchist political prisoner for years now, Michael Kimball. He's black, gay, he's in Alabama, and he defended himself against a Klan person who wanted to kill him. He had to shoot him to save his life. And then he was testified, his friend that he was trying to save, against him, and he got 30 years. So I've been working on this, and I've been trying to get people with more power and more resources to take this cause up. There's a lot of anarchist political prisoners, black, white, purple, straight, yellow, that have been there almost 30 years now. And they're just ignored by everybody. I'm not blaming you. I'm just saying I'm just one person. And you can ask Tariq, I'm just one person on SST. So if you could, I'd love to work and sit down, work with your group. And I thank you for your courage, because I know, as you said, you put your life on the line by doing this. So thank you. And on the move, and everybody that has that courage, when it's Bobby Sands, you. Thank you.
Uhuru. Send us the information. Get on the bus too in November and bring your protest and whatever. We need to mobilize everything that's willing to fight against this system. So I'm hoping that we can get an army of forces into DC on November 5th. And so thank you. And if we get the information, we will help you put that information out. Uhuru.
Any other questions? If I may, did you want to say something?
Penny was-
I'm going to, I only have one sign-up sheet right now, but it's going to circulate around there. Did you want to say?
Uhuru, Chairman, I just wanted to say something, and that I really appreciate and unite with your presentation and what you have, fought for. since the raid, and of course throughout your entire life, and that when, just having had the honor of working under the leadership of the party for 46 years, that people, do raise, well, what is it? Are they going to indict you? What are they going to say? And the thing that's so clear to me is that the most vicious, violent, brutal system that has ever existed on the planet Earth, and something that especially white people can just take for granted as normal because we don't experience the state in the same way, and that we know that is true, that this is the system that is about, but we just take it for granted every day, murder and bombing and rape and plunder and stealing everything that other people have so that some people can live, like you're saying. And that, we just, well, this is how it is. But the African People's Socialist Party and Chairman Omali Yeshitela are what in the world? I'm not talking about morality in a Christian sense, but what the world considers good. Fighting for human beings, fighting for people to be free, to have their culture, to have their resources, to live together. And the chairman has been called a co-conspirator, but the thing is, it's not true because the chairman doesn't do conspiracy. The chairman is transparent and open, and everything that you want to know about the African People's Socialist Party is in the Burning Spear newspaper, and there's no other secret agenda somewhere in a box, in a file, in a text, or anything. They can make up whatever they want because they have the power of the state and the military. But Chairman Omali Yeshitela is what good is in this world. And I just want to say that. And there is no other secret agenda or anything else. And whatever they do to him or to this movement, they will make it up. They will write that script, as we know they do. But the African People's Socialist Party is the good in this world.
Listen, they put agents in our organization. They put provocateurs in our organization. Nasty people, nasty human beings. They'll come into your organization and they'll sleep in your bedrooms. They'll become your quote unquote friends and what have you. And they work for the state. And they would do stuff that's designed to discredit you with people. So that kind of stuff would happen. But as Comrade Penny said, that you want to know who we are, you don't have to look far. And we write about it. I do a political report for every Congress that we have. I do a political report defining how we understand the world, what it is we're trying to do, where it is we're trying to go. And every issue of the Burning Spear, you see our platform there. You can see it. It's no secret to it at all. 1996, the United States government attacked the Uhuru House in St. Petersburg, Florida. They didn't claim Russians were there, anything like that. They attacked. They came 300 strong. They attacked our office, and they brought helicopters. And the only reason I'm standing here before you today is because the African community rose up and shot the damn helicopter down. This is in 1996 in St. Petersburg, Florida. They didn't even arrest anybody. They didn't arrest me. They used all the tear gas in the city of St. Petersburg, all of it. They didn't have any more tear gas. In fact, the city council was criticizing the police the next day because they didn't have enough tear gas. Was no question of Russia. It's what we stand for in terms of the liberation of our people and the destruction of a parasitic social system that bleeds the people of the world. That's what was under attack. That's what was under attack on July 29th, et cetera. So we're quite transparent. And like I said, in fact, you can come to, they stole our financial records. You can watch our conventions and conferences where we raise money. We say at the end of the meeting, this is how much money we raised. We say, we thank so-and-so. They say I think they implied that we might have taken 15, I don't know how many $1,000. They implied that we might have taken, maybe $5,000, $10,000, $15,000. We just constructed a basketball court in North St. Louis. It cost $150,000 to do it. You know where the money came from? From people who donated that money because they wanted to see a change, and a lot of it came from white people in the form of reparations. $50,000 from over here for reparation went to that basketball court for black people who were playing in the streets. You know what I'm talking about. Anybody who live in the African community see the little hoops that they put up from bicycle rims playing in the streets because there are no basketball courts unless you live in the Republic of East New York. And so we put the basketball court there because we say that the children need to have the ability to see a future beyond that damn bicycle rim in the middle of the street. We did that. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff. Come to St. Louis. I'm inviting everybody here. Everybody here, come to St. Louis so you can see what we do, how we've actually transformed the community. And when you see that, then part of what you understand is that we are not some furtive organization slinking around in the dark making deals with Russians. We're making a relationship with our people and with all the other people who can unite with the struggle for African liberation and white people who can unite with paying reparations. Somebody say, how you going to get reparations? Who's going to look like? H.R. 40 in the Congress. Hell, I'm waiting for no damn H.R. 40 in the Congress. You should see all the institutions that we have created from reparations. We are getting reparations. Africans are getting reparations today through the party, and they're represented in economic development programs that you can find in Philadelphia, you can find in St. Petersburg, Florida, you can find in St. Louis, and various other places that we're located. That's who we are. Talking the Russians? Talking about $10,000, $15,000? I mean, what are you talking about? Like I said, at least what? $50,000, at least one person gave $50,000 just for the basketball court. So it's nonsense. And I'm saying this to you, that everything they said is fabricated. So in terms of whether or not they can find anything in the documents that can prove their case, they can prove their case any way they want to. I can't stop them from proving the case, but they're lying.
Yeah.
They're lying. And let me tell you this. You can take a fact and hide the truth. Did you know that? You can take a fact and hide the truth. You can show me a fact that the Ku Klux Klan walked a little old lady across the street. That's a fact. But that's something that's being used to disguise the truth of who the Ku Klux Klan is. And so I say they can discover some kind of fact. I might have made a statement like I'm making a statement now that they would take to use against me, but they're doing that to obscure the truth. And the truth is black people are going to be free. And the truth is I'm going to play a role in making that happen like I have for the last 50, 60 years or so. That's the truth, regardless of what kind of facts they may be able to contrive. Thank you.
I would just like to add just one brief statement. When I think about, that spurious, ridiculous indictment, and even against Alexander Ionov, who is one Russian who is associated with the anti-globalism movement. And the chairman does not deny that he knows him and has gone to Russia. He doesn't deny that. But if you look at these mass killings, these mass shootings, they talk about all the time when it comes to somebody white, the lone shooter or something like that. There is no such thing. Many of them have left an online footprint of violence connected to the Azov battalion in Ukraine, who is considered one of the places where they are just this new neo-Nazi a revival is going on in New Zealand. I think it was New Zealand about 4 or 5 years ago. Somebody went into a Muslim mosque and shot up 50 people. The connection to the Azov battalion. In Buffalo, the person who shot 10 black people connection to Azov Battalion and their ideology. And they have a long footprint, so it's not like they'll just go on and do this. Months they post about this, yet the FBI can never find them. Yeah, they couldn't get a drone when they were killing those children in that school.
In Uvalde.
Yep, they couldn't get a drone inside that school, but they sent a drone into the chairman's house. Yeah. That is your government. That is the FBI.
King Downey, this is part of what we need lawyers for. They need to explain that. The FBI needs to be, you don't just come there and then say all of this stuff. Explain that. Explain. If I'm guilty of something with the Russians in 2000, whatever it was, then why were you attacking me in 1966?
Right.
You know, I mean, make them explain what they've done to the Black Panther Party. I mean, this needs to be a part of the thing that they have to defend themselves from. Bring it out, the records. This is why we need lawyers, not just to sit up and defend ourselves from what they say, but to put them on trial for what they have done to Black people. Make them explain what they did to Marcus Garvey, what they did to Paul Robeson, what they did to W.E. Du Bois. Even make them explain all of that and tell them, make them say how what you're doing today is different from what you did then. That's what we have to have lawyers for, not just to sit up and be defensive, fight some defensive struggle. We're going to take this thing, we're going to use the bad thing to turn it into a good thing. We're going to fight them and build a revolutionary movement, deepen it as a consequence of that. I want to thank everybody. Sister Nellie, we just love you so much. Sister Nellie, we most certainly does. And I really appreciate you, and not just for this. As I said, the thing that struck us about Nellie Bailey, I don't even remember what year it was, Nellie, where you were participating. You may have organized it, that forum around Barack Hussein Obama.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and Diop was there. Yeah.
St. Mary's Church it was, right?
Let me tell you a little, let me add a little caveat about this. Do you know that the Negroes here in New York City, even those who call themselves Marxists, supported that man?
Yes, they did. Yeah.
I mean, that's unconscionable.
Anybody else the bus to New York?
Yes.
I mean the bus to D.C.?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, absolutely. But look, he invaded Libya.
Yeah, he killed Gaddafi.
Today?
Yeah.
You have black men
Yeah.
slave
Yeah.
auction
Yeah.
blocks. And you have these people talking about Obama and don't talk about him. He stopped legislation in Haiti that Haiti workers could earn $5 or more a week. That's what he did.
Built up Africa.
Yeah. Only reason we talk about Obama is because he's not close enough to slap.
Okay, we've got to start winding down here, Lisa.
I just want to give the count on money raised. In hand, we got $620. If Charles, in pledges, if Charles doesn't get beat up by Nez, we can add his 1,000 to that, and that would be $1,620. Oh, you're 500? Yeah. No, I didn't do that. So what is that? That's $2,120. All that's in there. Whatever's in the envelopes is coming.
I pledged it. So.
You pledged it?
But I pledged 500 too. It'll be more than 2,100.
Yeah, that's, but yours is 2,100.
No, 500.
Huh?
500.
2,600 plus her 50.
Right.
Right.
2660.
Right.
Your 50?
Right. Well, I said I pledged this. I didn't write anything down. But I pledged this.
Let me get my math right. 620. Right?
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
1,000 with Charles Barron. That's 1,620.
Right.
Your 500 would be 2,120. Right. And your 50 would be 2,170.
Right.
That's what I said.
Okay, Lisa, what's the deal? We have to kind of wrap up here.
Right. I don't know where this microphone.
You can just.
I guess they the ones that brought it out.
Oh, okay.
I want to thank everyone for coming out. This has been the first event of the Harlem anti-war movement. We are going to hopefully have something here next month where we're going to be looking at the politics in Ukraine and what is really happening there and not accept the propaganda of the U.S. corporate media. So I hope that all of you have signed our sign-in sheet that we have in the back so that we can be in touch with you.